As a nation, we're responsible for throwing away billions of nappies every year. In America, there's a growing trend to follow a practice called Elimination Communication, disposing of nappies and relying on your baby's signals to work out when they need to wee or poo. Maggie Howell, an expert in parent attachment techniques, has used Elimination Communication on all 3 of her children, and she's joining me now. Hello, Maggie.
Hello.
And this is Jacob.
This is, yes.
Now, I think I know what you mean with Elimination Communication,
yeah.
But I can barely get my head round it. It sounds absolutely unbelievable. Just explain it to me.
Okay. Since time began, babies have got a certain set of needs, and those needs are to eat, to be warm, to be kept close to somebody, and to be able to eliminate when they need to. Fancy way of saying to wee or poo. In all parts of the world, apart from the West, up until very recently, babies didn't wear nappies, and babies don't wear nappies all over the world. But women in those parts of the world have got the instinct and the understanding and knowledge that they know when their baby needs a feed, and they know when their baby needs to do a wee or a poo. And so an animal, which is technically a mammal, instinctively wouldn't eliminate or wouldn't wee in their own environment. They would go somewhere away from the sleeping environment. And in the same way, from birth, a baby will clearly indicate to you when they are hungry, when they're in pain, when they're tired, and when they need to do a wee or a poo.
Now, okay. But how would I know? Oh no, you've done it, yes. I haven't. Yes. How would you know when your baby needed to go to the toilet?
Okay. It depends on when you start. With my first son, I started doing this when he was about 4 months old, because I met somebody who was doing this, was absolutely fascinated, and I felt I wanted to follow a similar approach. So he was 4 months old, so he'd already been signalling to me, unbeknownst to me, for quite a long time. And his signals by that point were slightly different. As a newborn baby, if a baby is fed, is warm, feels safe, they are normally very still. When they start to kick or to spark or fidget, that is a very clear sign that they want to eliminate. In the same way that a toddler, when they want to go to the toilet, they're hopping from side to side, crossing their legs.
Do a little jig.
Exactly, exactly. And so a very young baby, when they're kicking with their legs, is a very clear sign they want to do a wee. So there's a signalling which is kicking, fidgeting, some verbal noises, grunting. I mean, most parents would say, oh yeah, I know when my child needs to do a poo. And that's because they're grunting. And, because they've been used to weeing or pooing in their nappies, they don't take any notice, they change the nappy, fine. But if you start getting in tune with them, you will realise that from very young, they will be indicating those things to you. So you've got the signalling, you've also then got timing. From a very young age, you can pick up on a pattern of how often they need to wee, in the same way that you know how often your baby needs to feed. And so when I started, I would literally write down the times that he would wee or poo, and I would soon see a pattern build up. So in the beginning it was about every 20 minutes. At this age now it's every 40 minutes, a little bit more if he's had a feed. So you begin to see a pattern.
Is Jacob not wearing any nappies?
At home, no. No.
Oh right, I see. But when I was going to ask you, when you come out,
yes.
Just for practicality.
Yes, I do.
Put some nappies on with some pull-ups.
Yeah, exactly. With my first son, I didn't. With my first son, I was very evangelical about it, and I was going to be, I would chastise myself if I got it wrong. I was very hard on myself, which in hindsight, any mother who thinks about doing this, please don't do that, because it does take quite a lot of getting used to. It is a new way of doing things. You will get weed on, but then lots of mums get weed on when they change babies' nappies anyway. So, putting that aside. And with him, I wouldn't, I'd take him to Tesco's, we'd go and do a wee beforehand. When they need a wee, what I do is I hold them in a certain position, so they get used to that position being associated with doing a wee. And I make the verbal cue. I make a sound, which is a pss, pss, pss sound. And from a very young age, they will associate that sound with needing to go. So if I'm going on a journey, I'll take the children to the toilet, including him. I will make that sound. If he needs to do a wee, you can see his little muscles going, and he'll do a wee. If he doesn't, he will arch his back, and that clearly tells me, no mum, don't need to do one right now.
Wow.
And so, from about 3 months old, he could actively make himself wee if he was, put in that position, which naturally squeezes the bladder a little bit anyway. Here's the cue, and then he would wee.
I suppose that some mothers might say, well, is there what's the point?
Why bother?
Why bother, quite frankly?
Absolutely. And, this is something which really is not going to be for 99% of the population. But the reason we did it was we follow attachment parenting approach. I've always carried my babies in a sling, I sleep with my babies, I breastfeed them, and as part of that I wanted to be as in tune with them as possible. And when I heard that my child was communicating to me, I couldn't unknow that, I couldn't unlearn that, so I knew then that I wanted to be able to pick up on that communication.
Sort of bitten by the bug, weren't you?
Exactly. It's sort of like when you find something out, you can't then...
Can't let it go.
Exactly. So that was one reason. The second reason is it's much, much cheaper. So, the cost of nappies is huge. It's much more environmentally friendly, which wasn't a main driver for us, but, we did think about that. It cuts out on potty training. It cuts out on a huge amount of frustration from both baby and from mum, and it's actually quicker. Mums say to me, haven't you got anything better to do than sit and wait for your baby to wee? And I'm like, if only you knew how busy my life was. I have 3 kids, I run a wonderful business, and I'm out and about all the time. It's much quicker to take him to do a wee, and which takes 30 seconds, than to at this age to get him pinned down, undressed, take all the clothes off, then he's wriggling off, and so it actually for us has worked out easier.
Right. Well, I was absolutely fascinated when I read about it and heard that you were going to come in and talk to me. So thank you for shedding that light on it.
Most welcome.
And if someone wants to follow that technique, I'm sure details will be on our website. So thank you for explaining it to me.
Thank you.